call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551. So welcome everyone. We are glad to have you. Happy Monday, almost spring, right? Feels like spring today, which makes me very happy. So we will start. We don't have anyone to give an oral report, no public speakers. Okay, great. So we will go right into our reports for the superintendent. And our first one is Mr. Bob Templeton on our demographic and housing analysis. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you, Board President. Dr. Hollingsworth, members of the board. It's great to be here with you tonight. I'll start by just touching on the economic conditions. We'd like to look at the unemployment rates to give us a gauge for how the local economy is doing, the DFW economy is doing. You can see the unemployment rates continue to stay in that 4% range. So very healthy labor market, very healthy labor picture there. We are still seeing job growth. We are seeing strong population growth coming into the DFW region. In fact, Texas is still leading the country in terms of new home construction. Dallas-Fort Worth, #1 in the country for new home starts. The annualized start rate is 47,421. Houston's in the 2nd spot, San Antonio's in the 4th spot, and Austin is down in the 6th spot. You can see it's definitely been a roller coaster for the housing market. The dark purple line is the annualized start rate for new homes. The turquoise line is the annualized closing rate. And you can see in the last 4 quarters, starts and closings are getting closer together. So we are seeing closings following starts much, much closer now. It's the supply chains, they're worked out. We don't have as many of those kind of backups. And the new housing market has been very, very creative and very using a lot of incentives to help young buyers and first-time home buyers. So the new home market is responding fairly well to the still high interest rates. When we look at what's happening with the average new home price in the Eagle Mountain Saginaw School District, you can see it has kind of leveled off. So the average new home price in Eagle Mountain is $376,000. The average existing home sale price, $358,000. So definitely a little bit of a softening there in the average existing home sale price and the flattening of the average price for new homes as well. When we look at the ranking report based on annualized closings for school districts across the DFW region, the Eagle Mountain Saginaw School District is in the 6th spot, 2,213 closings. The start rate is down at 1,676. We've got plenty of vacant developed lots, 1,946, and over 10,800 future lots.
What about that inventory though, Bob? Is that concerning? Is that, I mean, that 650 is the lowest we've had.
It is a little lower, and the inventory is a combination of under construction and some finished vacant. So it is lower right now at 650, especially when you look at those above you and below you.
Right.
Definitely lower than we've seen.
Is that just because we've closed more than we've started, just when you get to that report?
Yes.
That's the biggest difference we've had in a while.
That's true. It's that we closed so many, in fact, which is good. So we're closing those homes. In fact, 2,200, which that's much higher than we've seen the last couple of years. When we look at the starts and closings by quarter, we started 441 new homes in the 4th quarter of 24. And when I kind of want you to go back to 2019, and when you look at 2019, you'll notice that we were doing about 1,600 starts in 2019. Of course, the pandemic caused some craziness in the housing market with huge spikes and huge drop in starts, but it is now settling in at about 1,600 to 1,700 is the annualized start rate, which is where we were prior to the pandemic. Again, the closing number for 2024, that's the highest number that we've seen in the last 6-7 years. So that's a good number that it's closing what we started. When we break it out by your elementary attendance zones, the Hatley Elementary Zone is seeing the most new home construction. They've got an annualized start rate of 677. You've got the Bryson Zone with 246 starts, but they are starting to run out of lots. So the Bryson Zone will move down the ranking, and it's really going to start to see a slowdown because they just don't have the lots nor the futures. The one to kind of watch will be the Eagle Mountain Saginaw zone. That elementary zone has plenty of vacant developed lots and a high number of futures. So the growth is going to stay in Hadley, at least for the next year to two, and then it's going to accelerate in the Eagle Mountain Elementary zone.
Bob, those ones with zeros, Lake Point, Northbrook, Parkview, Remington Point, Saginaw, are those because they're all built out or because no one's interested in building in those areas?
Great question. It definitely means something different for each of those zones, because there are some of the zones that are built out. But then when you look at like the Dozier zone, there's lots of vacant land there. Of course, it's mostly owned by the Bass family, I believe. So that one has it's still one to watch, but it doesn't have anything imminent going on. There is some future things that are very early in some of the other zones, but I would say like for Dozier, it's the ultimate Bass land, what ultimately happens down the road for that. And then when you look at Northbrook, because of its location on the loop and 35, I don't see that maybe a little bit of spots that could happen there, some infill. It's probably mostly going to be multifamily, which could come into the Northbrook zone.
Correct, Bob. On that one, so at some point we'll have to decide when you have Saginaw High School, south of that, all that's multi-family and it's already been zoned that way. So once that kicks in, we'll have to decide, does it go to Northbrook or does it go to maybe High Country? Are we divided depending on how that works out? But there is a lot of potential for multi-family in that area.
So as those go along, Bob, was zero, and we look at your 10-year projection here in a couple of pages, that just means you're counting on those houses being sold. If they have two kids, they're going to replace it with two kids as that neighborhood ages.
Well, as an example for Dozier, because there's so much land there, I do have some future growth built in down the road.
Right.
I don't have anything growing in Dozier in the next couple of years, but it is one that I wanted to keep it kind of on the radar. Now, I do think when that land does, if it turns or when it turns into a development opportunity, it'll likely be something really big.
Yeah, there's a lot of land.
It's a lot of land and it's one owner. So it's one owner. And so then when that does eventually happen, it'll be a massive master planned project, which will change that quadrant of the district. Now, some of these other areas are, what's remaining is smaller, but eventually there will be some activity. And when I go back to the map.
Bob, just to be clear, you're talking on the Dozier zone, you're talking about south of Robertson and west of Boat Club?
The Dozier is this, this quadrant here.
Yeah,
That's all pretty much one owner owns that whole.
That's Robertson right there.
Mhm.
That's what I was, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
But you can see, there's other zones, like Northbrooks, as Mr. Welch mentioned, there's still a lot of land there, but it is likely going to be multifamily. And the multifamily yields are so varied. Multifamily mostly yields lower, but over time we could see some single family for rent types that would have a little higher yield. But Northbrook is one we want to watch very closely because of where it's located, and it still has some multifamily potential. Some of the highlights on the overview map, we have 28 actively building subdivisions. We still have 9 future subdivisions that are in various stages of planning. We do have groundwork underway on 2,200 lots in 7 different subdivisions, and we delivered 321 lots in the fourth quarter. Some of the highlights, of course, Belt Mill, one of your most active subdivisions. It's got 172 homes under construction, 21 homes in inventory. That is yielding 0.502 students per home in Belt Mill. Next, we're looking at the Eagle Mountain Talon Hills, 424 total lots. It does have some townhome lots, just 1 home under construction, 7 inventory homes. It's yielding 0.338. Its location to the lake, that part of the district is somewhat lifestyle housing as well, is why we see it yielding different than what you would see the further east you go.
But there's just 8, right now, there's just 8, 1 under construction and 7 inventory homes, that's all.
That's it.
If I'm trying to buy a house there, that's it.
Yes.
Okay.
The landing at Creekside is 419 total lots. It does have some single-family rentals, so it's a little bit of a mix. There are some lots for sale. There's a single-family rental portion, and so there's approximately 100 single-family for rentals that are now leasing, and then there is a phase 2 that has 106 additional homes there. So its location to Elkins definitely has potential to yield pretty high.
Have to have a good preposition.
North Point, it's 2,469 total lots, about 1,129 future lots, 35 homes under construction, and the yield in North Point is 0.381 students per home. You can see from the satellite image back from January, tremendous amount of dirt work in the future lots, very active in the western portion of North Point. On the multifamily picture, again, we're seeing very low occupancy rates across the DFW region. The occupancy rates continue to stay below 87%. And the main reason is we're building so many units and we're only absorbing about, 21,000 out of 38,000. And we still have a tremendous amount under construction. So the multifamily rates are going to continue to stay lower. It is softening the rent rates. And we also have about 38% of the apartments offering concessions to help lure in those renters. When we look specifically at the Eagle Mountain Saginaw School District, we have 4 projects that are under construction, so more than 1,000 rental units under construction right now. 166 of those are single-family rental homes. We literally are seeing this product type in just about all of our clients. So this is a growing product for multifamily. We also have 258 that are senior living units, so they'll be age restricted and won't have an impact of students per home. And we also have another 950 future multifamily rental units that are in various stages of planning. That's the turquoise shaded area, and the purple circles are the multifamily that are under construction.
So, Bob, there was supposed to be in that Peloton development that's up in the Eagle Mountain that's on hold, and you may know more about this, Clete. There's supposed to be some single family for rent in that one. I know, and have you heard anything else about that one? One of the things I heard was they were potentially selling it, or because there was some single family for rent.
Right, so there are numerous sites in that Eagle Mountain zone on that Fleming Ranch corridor.
Mhm.
And once it gets completed, where the roads east-west will connect into it. And so it's been zoned that way since 2002, whenever it came along. So those are things that'll help bring more kids to us up there.
And that's very water contingent, as I've discovered.
Yes, sir.
Bob, those single-family rentals, typically, are those yielding more children?
They are yielding more than traditional multifamily, but still not as much as traditional single family.
Got it. Okay.
So, but it is growing in popularity, and it's the flexibility that a lot of these younger renters, they want a single family type home, but they don't want the mortgage. And so, but the rents are pretty expensive. The rents are about equal to what a mortgage payment is. In many cases, it's, $1,500 to $2,200 for rent for these types of housing. So a couple of the highlights on the multifamily: Birchway Quarry Falls, down just off the loop of 820, 378 multifamily units under construction. And there's also about 840 future that could have student housing impact for Tarrant County Community College. It looks like this first one here may be mostly in Lake Worth ISD. So that will provide for some interesting challenges there as the line literally cuts through the development.
Are they building that in the quarry? Are they building that up? Or?
I'm not sure how they're dealing with that.
I think it's up on the hill.
Yeah.
Where they have.
Next is the Range West, which is 261 multifamily units under construction. It is expected to be leasing right now, and it is in the Hatley Elementary Attendance Zone. Now here's the grade level projections. This year's enrollment came in very close to what we forecasted. This fall, the enrollment was 23,913. I will highlight that the yellow shaded cell is the largest grade per year. The green shaded cell is the second largest grade per year. You can see that, for the last several years, our 9th and 10th grade classes have been the largest two classes of the enrollments. And that is going to cause a little bit of there's a bubble that is starting to exit. So there's a little bit of an impact that it's going to be seen at the high school projections. We are still forecasting about 400 students of growth next fall, and then it starts to stay near 400 for the next 4 years. The enrollment growth could drop down below 400 students in years 5 through 10. Here's a look at the campus projection starting at the elementary campuses. The green shaded cells are when the enrollment is within 5% of the capacity. The yellow shaded cell is when the enrollment is beyond 105% of capacity. You can see the growth pockets. You've got Eagle Mountain Elementary School that'll be approaching capacity in the 27-28 year. It will likely exceed capacity in the 28-29 year. And then we've got 3 other elementaries that are approaching capacity. It's Elkins Elementary, Hatley Elementary, and Lake Point Elementary. So within 4 to 5 years, we could have, 3 to 4 elementaries right at or one exceeding capacity. At the secondary level, it's the middle schools, and Prairie Vista Middle School, Wayside Middle School, they are, going to be exceeding capacity this next year. And then you've got Creekview, which floats up near capacity, but I don't see that it's going to get significantly above capacity during the 10-year horizon. At your high schools, it's Boswell High School that's going to stay near capacity, and then your other 3 high schools are likely going to stay below capacity. I'll do key takeaways and be ready to answer additional questions. The district has 28 actively building subdivisions. We've got nearly 1,950 lots available for builders to build on. We do still have a significant number of futures. We have about 10,900 futures that are in the planning stages. We have groundwork underway on about 2,200 lots in 7 different subdivisions. We do expect your enrollment to approach 25,900 students in 5 years, and in 10 years, your enrollment could be at about 27,900 students. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question on the 10-year forecast by elementary, middle, and high school. So I know you mentioned a little bit of that one bubble that's pushing through, but it doesn't seem like it would account for all of it. If I look at the elementaries, that 10-year growth rate is like 25%. I look at the middle school, it's like 21%. And I look at the high schools, it's basically flat. So I don't think that's enough to account for just that bubble.
Well, so how we do the projections, we start at the elementary campuses, we build each elementary first, then we let them feeder up into the middle schools and then at the high schools. Now, we are introducing the new high school, so the new high school is coming into play. But then for the high schools, we are using the cohort patterns that your high schools have experienced historically. When I say the cohort patterns, when I go back to the grade page, you can see there's, pretty predictable patterns between 9th to 10th. You can see how for most years, the 10th grade is smaller than the 9th grade. So that produces a cohort that we will use to help guide the projections. We do that for each of those high schools. And then you can see the same thing that happens between 10th and 11th. You see how in 2021, the 10th grade class was 1,836. The following year's 11th grade class was 1,697. So therefore, I'm using these similar cohorts to produce the high school projections. Now, the younger grade levels historically have been a little bit less. So I believe what's happening is it's that bubble that's working its way out, and that's producing the little bit of a flattening to slight drop in the high school numbers within the short term. Then we get a little bit of you can see it starts to grow back again in years 27 through basically 30. There's a little bit of growth in those years. And then that cycle repeats itself again with larger classes working their way through. That's what I believe to be the case.
I'd just be curious a little bit, if we could do a little bit deeper dive. That's very surprising to me that it would be that much. I mean, I know we know that pattern and that always exists, but for it to be basically flat over the 10-year time didn't seem totally intuitive to me without a different reason.
Sure, I will produce to Cleat the campus breakdown, so that way you can see the campus, high school campus patterns for those cohorts.
Thank you.
Bob, when, if vouchers pass, how are you going to adjust these projections? What's
That
the,
is a great question.
what are we going to do?
You know, we're monitoring very closely. I think, you know, the Senate has their version out. I don't believe the House has their version out yet. And so when we see the final versions, we'll start to then build in some low forecast based on how that could impact districts. It's definitely going to, in my opinion, the impact will grow. So the first year, the impact may not be felt much, but then by year 2 and year 3, I think we'll know the full impacts that it could have. The Senate has a homeschool allowance. I don't believe the House's version will. I also, you know, we'll probably get some pretty good ideas within the next month about how that's going to play out.
Are you doing any benchmarking with other states who have gone through this?
We are doing some research on that because you're right, you know, Florida's had vouchers for a while, so we are doing some research on that right now.
It'll affect different areas of the cities differently, I would think.
It will.
Okay.
You know, there's some targeted, you know, what I have read, it's a little bit of a lottery system, so there could be a lottery system as to who could potentially get the vouchers. And so there is a targeted for economically disadvantaged that has a higher percentage. So, you know, we'll be interested to see how it plays out. I don't think the rural districts are going to be impacted as much, but I do think the suburban school districts could.
There's an interesting and I hope a movement that kind of gathers some steam right now being discussed, which is that some members of the House are saying we'll approve vouchers so long as the accountability piece is attached, meaning STAR. So even that the STAR requirement could potentially follow the kid to fill in the blank private school, which I love. I think it's fantastic. You know, let's you know, even playing field and so forth. So anyway, that's legitimately some of the conversation I've heard.
Well, I mean, the other factor, I'm sure you're familiar with it, would be a factor outside or in partnership with vouchers, House Bill 619 as well, which could cause, you know, the Wild West and this whole thing with the one-time transfer.
I don't think 619 will pass.
I hope it doesn't. But
You're right.
But I know that's another factor, right, with this
Yes.
deal.
Any other questions, comments?
Well-
Thank you as always, Bob. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it so
And I'll
much.
follow up with Cleat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate it. Okay, thank you very much. And then Mr. Cleet Welch on the construction updates, please.
So before I start, because Bob, it's kind of a good time to probably talk about this. So you saw some of the yellow shading on our middle schools. So this spring, we will start that process of looking how we'll redistribute and look at our attendance zone lines for Wayside, Prairie Vista, and Highland. So it's basically moving a shift from Wayside, or the student population that is zoned for Eagle Mountain, but it's really going to go west to east because Highland has low numbers. So we'll start transitioning some of those housing developments into it that are Saginaw feeders. So the goal when we look at that is we're going to lower Wayside, so it'll stay under capacity. In the middle, you got Prairie Vista, and then you got to protect Highland. We can't put too many kids in there because it's going to run into middle school 8 at some point. So if we put too many kids over it too quickly, then we'll have to really watch that and try to predict, working with Bob, that we can stretch that one out until the next bond program.
We won't really be able to establish those true feeder patterns until 8's completed, right? I mean,
Yes,
somewhere down the road.
yes.
We'll keep them as close as we can, but kids are gonna be going to different high schools from the same middle school for a while.
Yes, yeah, it'll be, I mean, when we get middle school 7 up there, or
All right.
Go
ahead.
Middle school,
It has a
that'll
name.
help us balance that. When you talked about Creekview and how, it had the higher numbers there, you got to imagine all those students that will be pulled off Wayside. Okay, so now then Wayside's going to be at a number where you probably at some point need to look at Creekview and Wayside to balance those up, so they're at 900 or whatever we'd like them to be. So there'll be a lot of tweaking in that as we go along, for sure. So just want to we'll talk about that next month, but I just want to give you, since Bob did his presentation, we saw all those colors, I want to go over that.
As few tweaks as possible. Let's just try to move them once,
Yes, sir.
if we can.
That's the goal.
That'll be the challenge. And I think we can do that because even though we make the move, it should only impact the students one time. And anyway, I would envision that we can keep somebody, if you're already there, you could stay. And then so it would be like the 5th graders going to 6th grade, that's the ones you would impact. And you could give the other ones maybe potentially options to stay if they'd like. So try to just, like you said, the minimal impact if we can. So those students have really never experienced a move. So they're going there for the first time. And so hopefully we could, it just again, how quickly we can get that school going, so.
And that, just to reiterate, I know we talked about this, but for people watching and things like that, who are looking at the most recent bond, it's the water issue is one of the things that's driving this, right? To be able to pull kids off, because we really were trying to pull kids off of Wayside with middle school set with Stephen G. Newcomb Middle School 7, but we're not able to start that construction because Fort Worth said, oh, by the way, you can't have the water.
And look at this balancing act, we've talked about this for at least the last 4 years. It was going to happen. So we'll just have to start that process. And I guess to your point about the water situation, we do have a meeting tomorrow set up in the afternoon to talk to the commissioner in the city of Fort Worth. So that was that one that got canceled about a month ago or 8 weeks ago, whatever it was. So we're going to re-engage that one.
And we're encouraged by some of the conversations we're having, not only with city officials, but with county officials. And in fact, the county's been very helpful in helping try to set up those conversations.
Right.
So that we can hopefully make some.
Yeah, because because of the kids and the way they're going to finance that, it is a county-driven thing with the city. So I think they're to the point where they're ready to start talking about development terms and how they're going to do that. So it doesn't, I mean, it's going to impact us, but I'm glad that they're moving forward and they're all working together. So they've stayed on it. It's a weekly meeting, so it doesn't, they just keep going and going, and it stays on top of everything. So it's encouraging.
There's a permanent possibility of a solution, and there's also some conversation related to temporary solutions as well. And so both of those are things that we're exploring, just if at all possible, to try to get that school rolling.
So a quick update on our current construction. We have Wayside Middle School. So I think this is a really good aerial to show you the different progress from the north to the south. And had a little weather issue, obviously, the last 10 days. And of course, it impacts us to be able to pour concrete. But you can see a lot of ICF. You see the aerial of the decking, the joist, and the storm shelter. This one's looking south to north, and so you see the parking lot with the cars in it on the south side, and there's between the parking lot and the school wall there's a fire lane there, so they're working. That's already been poured, and they're starting to lime in the back and get that progress going there. So we're looking good at that. Here's an example of a competition gym with the CMU block. It's going up. You can see the workers up on the north side of it with the where they level it up and ratchet up the platforms. This, the ICF is going on all over that site. So it's not just doing one, then go to the next one. It's all different phases in there. And so they'll have a couple pours this week, hopefully. The drone footage just showing the storm shelter and the locker rooms. And you can see the joist and decking and the good progress we've made in that area. And also you've got some work that's getting along on the cafeteria and the fine arts area. On the top, on the right picture. Just some more pictures of the fine arts on the left, and I believe we got locker rooms on the right, so you can see that how it's starting to get closed in. And in front of the building, that's their main entrance. So they're putting the piers. And a lot of steel and concrete goes in those to support them. Eagle Mountain High School, we continue with the punch items. So it's, I think maybe within 3 months, we will start looking at, we'll be going through our 11th month walk, and maybe we can get close to closing that project out. We're working with the YMCA currently on the final part of the MOU, and our goal is to get that completed and bring that to y'all for approval on that. The new marquees have been installed and programmed at Boswell and Chisholm Trail High School. And we're still working with VOK on the design or the thoughts on the field house component to that project.
When will we be able to have something a little more concrete on that, do you think? How long out are we on that?
Well, I would say that next month we ought to be able to cover, it's trying to figure out exactly how much money we think we're going to have, and then going from there as far as what we can do in that project. Rob talked to us like last month, 2 months ago, about the interest savings. So there will be some more interest savings above what he had mentioned. And so we'll bring that back to y'all and share more about that.
Okay.
Next month. Let's see. And the Stephen G. Newcomb Middle School, again, we kind of hit on that a while ago. Saginaw Elementary, we're still working on that project, and we will be. And I was asked today, basically, what's the timeline on that? We are going to get it designed and go through that process, but ultimately, when it needs to go, it depends on the water issue up north, because once, you know, that will override, and that gets us back on the original schedule. And also, if you looked at Bob's report, when you got Eagle Mountain Elementary and Hatley, they're going to collide around 2029, they're going to 28, they're going to be over capacity. So we'll have to figure out something with the potential of Elementary 19. So just kind of juggling those things, but be ready with all three if we have that ability. But we can't really probably do all three on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So that'll be the kind of how we have to juggle that. And we still work with VOK. We got the page turn tomorrow. So we bring our trades in with the maintenance department. We go over each sheet, make sure we got the plumbing, HVAC, and make sure they're on what we're putting in there works for our guys and our standards. And then there'll be the other trades. We'll have technology. We'll do that with them also. So we're getting down the road on that one. So that's our update for tonight.
Great. Questions, comments? Anything? Thank you, Mr. Welch.
Thanks, Clete.
Thank you.
Job, Clete. Just bring him in on time and under budget. You're doing great.
We know he will, right?
You didn't ask me the question about Wayside.
Is it on schedule?
It has to be on schedule.
Okay, our next report will be from Ms. Stacy DeHoyos on the pre-kindergarten report.
Good evening, Dr. Tolbert, Dr. Hollingsworth, board members. I am here tonight to give you an update on pre-kindergarten and what all we're doing in the world of early childhood. So of course, our work is aligned with not only the mission, but the 3 pillars of academic excellence for Aspire 2027. And so In the past couple of times, I've had the pleasure of coming up here to talk about pre-kindergarten. We talked about the implementation of the full day programming across the district. And last year, we were able to do that across the district. So we do have continued full day pre-kindergarten implementation for eligible 4-year-old students. And so that's, we'll see a little bit of information on that as well. We're also focusing on collaborations now for our continued and growing enrollment, working with Texas Workforce Commission, their workforce boards who have a strong interest in building partnerships with ISDs. Also our work with the REV partnership so that we are getting the word out there to families, making it available and easy and accessible for them to find us so that we can continue to increase that enrollment. And of course, working through the network with Region 11's ECE network so that we are staying just informed on all of the enrollment options that other districts might be using and working together to collaborate on ideas that we can use here. And then of course, TEA's pre-K enrollment toolkit. So all of those things working to help grow our program here. So currently we have 732 eligible students that are enrolled in our pre-kindergarten program. We have a breakdown there of the campuses that have pre-kindergarten. The only campuses that do not right now are Remington Point and Eagle Mountain Elementary. Of course, part of that just is due to numbers of students that will be eligible in that attendance zone, as well as space that's available on that campus. And then at Hafley Development Center, we continue to serve the early childhood special education program. There's a breakdown of classes there as well. So specific to our early childhood education program, we have 86 students who are enrolled as early education students only. So you'll see them reflected as a grade level EE. Students who are pre-kindergarten eligible can also receive special education services. So within that pre-K enrollment number, there will be students who do meet that criteria and are receiving special education services. These students would be students that don't meet the eligibility criteria for some reason, and so they're enrolled as EE students. But the programs that we are currently offering are an integrated pre-kindergarten 3 program. So we have 5 half-day sessions, and those are at Hafley. And then our early childhood special education programs, 4 full-day classes, and that is students, again, who need the higher level of need of special education support. So we have 4 full-day classrooms, 1 full-day integrated classroom, so that's a blend of students who are eligible for pre-K and students who are not pre-K eligible but benefit from being in that environment. And then 5 half-day early childhood special education classrooms. Those are students that are 3 years old. And so only our 3-year-old students are being served in half-day. And then we do continue, of course, to support our program at Hafley Development Center for the EMS ISD childcare, where we have 12 classrooms and we have 116 students enrolled in those 12 classrooms from infants to 4 years old.
Do you have a waiting list for that?
Yes, we do.
How long is it?
So currently we're at about 8, which is much better than we were a couple of years ago when we were reaching 30 infants. But thankfully, I'm so appreciative that the board approved us being strategic in our planning. We were able to absorb those students. We've never had to have a waiting list that's longer than about 8 students. Most families do get in at least by the 2nd year. Occasionally there are some exceptions to that, but generally a family that enrolls will eventually find a spot. We've worked really hard to make that happen, and I appreciate your support in doing that. We've rolled that classroom up, so we've been able to continue to serve those students, and we'll continue to roll that up. So, and when I say roll up, I mean we started with an infant room, and that's become a toddler or infant toddler room, and then we have to continue to build and make that room kind of graduate so that we have the capacity. But the numbers of families seeking childcare has decreased. And so, which we thought might happen, there was a little bit of a surge during that COVID time, just after that. And so, and we check in regularly with other area childcare centers that ISDs offer. We know that this is an important piece to our recruiting process. and we consistently maintain a waiting list that is lower than our area ISDs.
Is ours as big as the other similar sized schools? Do we offer as many slots for teachers?
Well, we generally compare our data to others childcare centers that are the same size and districts that are the same size. So districts that are the same size, yes. Yes, do we offer generally the same slots? There are some that may have 2 programs, but that doesn't mean they have more classes. They just might have a smaller program. But that's a great question, and I'll remember to ask that next time I'm looking at those numbers.
And are the 8 that are on the waiting list, are they various ages or?
Infants. We don't
infants? Okay.
generally have a very long waiting list for students in the upper aged classrooms. If that happens, they're generally a later enrollment or enrollment after the school year. Like I said, because we work really hard to try to get all of the students in.
Do we have capacity at Hafley to have another infant room?
We have physical space for another infant room. What we wouldn't have is rolling forward, for example,
Right.
we wouldn't have any students on the waiting list. So currently, looking at our projections for next year, we don't have students on the waiting list that are born. We may have children that are on the waiting list, but they will be born sometime during the school year. And so their start date might be later in the school year. If we were to open that classroom, it would mean we would have an empty room for a very long period of time. And those staff members, currently we have those FTEs allocated to address the students that are moving up in that one classroom that we opened.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay, I think I moved my slide. Nope, I was good there. Okay, so of course we are always monitoring our high quality pre-kindergarten requirements and making sure that we do meet those requirements that are there with our aligned curriculum. We've continued our progress monitoring. I've got some data to share with you tonight on that. We've continued our teacher training program, making sure that our teachers meet that extra criteria that's required by the state. We have been able to maintain our ratios at 1:11, even with the increased class sizes this year. And our family engagement plan, the state is really doing a lot of work and adding details to that. So I've been joining their meetings and making sure that our engagement plan meets that criteria. And if there are changes that need to be made, making sure that that happens. And then of course our program evaluation is completed with input from parents and as well as input from the pre-K lead teams. And so a couple of those members are with us tonight, so I appreciate them coming and supporting us tonight. So again, this is the self-assessment that we do every year. We're required as part of high quality pre-K to do the self-assessment, and underneath those those 8 domains, there are a total of 50 strategies that they're looking for. And so we did identify a couple of areas where we need to continue to do some work, and that's in our coaching and mentoring. So making sure that we have an ability to coach and mentor our teachers that are on the elementary campuses. And so we are thankful that, again, the board has supported our continued work with having content facilitators for pre-kindergarten. And those content facilitators are not just from Hafley, they're from the other elementary campuses as well. And they work to make sure that they can serve as early childhood education experts in all of the different content areas for all of the teachers that are across the district. And so meeting those needs and collaborating with each other, and then of course coming together on those professional development days as a group so that they can provide those trainings and provide that information to the teachers. And at each one of those sessions, we do allow for the teachers to give feedback so that we're making sure we're addressing what they feel like their needs are as well. So just to take us on a little bit of a walk, looking at some of our data, this is the data from our Circle Progress Monitoring system that's done through CLI Engage. That's the curriculum that we use as well. And so this is beginning and middle of year data for current students. And so you'll see a little bit there. And of course, the green are students who met the benchmark, and the is just that extra space all the way up to the 100. But We are making growth in these two areas. This is the English literacy for rapid letter naming and rapid vocabulary. And then we'll take a look at, this is Spanish. So letras rápidas is the same, rapid vocabulary. Vocabulario rápido is also in the Spanish version. And something I'd like to point out to you, last year when I came and spoke with you, we actually saw that we were not making progress with our students at the rate we needed to in the bilingual program, particularly in rapid vocabulary, actually only in rapid vocabulary. And so we did take a deep dive into that, and I'm very thankful for Ana De Leon and Sandra Garcia in the bilingual department, who came together with our bilingual pre-kindergarten teachers, and they worked together to address that need, and we're seeing that the things that they're doing are working. So we're seeing that progress continue in our Spanish bilingual classrooms. And then this is our math data, and so you'll see as we move along, the lighter shades are those individual domains that they monitor, and then there's an overall score. The overall score is what gets reported to the state at the end of the year, but you can see we are inching up there a little bit in math. We have had some conversations about that, just discussing that math can be difficult for young children, going from a very concrete type of thinking to a little bit more abstract thinking, where they have to actually understand that numbers aren't just things that we count, they represent a quantity, and being able to combine those quantities. So that's something that we will continue to work on and build on.
Stacy, I know the Circle curriculum has the ELAR component. Does it include the mathematics component also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And so this is our social emotional data, and as you can see from the graphic there, it does look like there's a little dip in our students, number of students that have met the benchmark there. But I'd like to show you this graphic here. This actually takes each one of those individual skills that we are monitoring, and this is the average score. And when you look at it in this way, what you see is that we are having growth with our students that are coming into the program in every area. Where the difference is from the previous graphic is that the students aren't meeting the benchmark at that middle of year. So diving into what could potentially be going on there, some of the conversations that we had were that we started the year with 700 students in our pre-kindergarten program. At middle of year, when we completed the middle of year assessment, we had 732. Most of those students came into the district in the months of November and December. And so we just completed this assessment. What we are seeing is that students are coming in the middle of the year, and they haven't had this rich opportunity to learn in the school setting with the teachers. And so they aren't meeting the benchmark at middle of year. We're very eager to see how they're going to do at the end of year. We anticipate that there will be the growth, because even considering that they're coming in late, the students are coming to us later, and they haven't had those opportunities, we have still demonstrated that we're making growth with them. We just need to get them a little bit further along. So those are things we'll be focused on as we close out the year and get them ready for kindergarten.
I don't think we can overemphasize how important this work is right here. As y'all know, we're just seeing, it's not an Eagle Mountain Saginaw problem, just nationwide, we're seeing such extreme behaviors, even among young people. And so to see this, it really shows the benefit of our kids being a part of our pre-K program whenever possible. And that's really encouraging. It's really good work.
I agree, and I am so thankful that I get to stand up here and share this with you. But I really want to tip my hat to the teachers that are in these classrooms every day. And not only are they working hard to help students be successful, but they're also doing lots of learning. And so I appreciate that.
Invaluable.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So we'll take a look at early writing, and we have a little bit of the same situation here where we did see some loss in the number of students meeting the benchmark. But again, the early writing and the social emotional component are both observables. So those are teachers' observations. And when I break down the average score, there you see we did have growth with the students, but we will have students that aren't meeting the benchmark because they're coming in later in the year. So we'll continue working with them, and we're excited and feel very good about what we'll see towards the end of year. So now I have some other exciting data to show you here, and this is, so this is actually in-class reading. This is students that were in our pre-kindergarten program last school year, and they're now kindergartners. And this is their beginning of year assessment and how they performed. So a number to begin looking at first is the 42%. The number of students that were in our pre-kindergarten program last year and are in our kindergarten classrooms this year. And that's 42%, up 39% from the previous year. So we are increasing our enrollment. It doesn't show here, but actually of the 100 students that we added to kindergarten from last school year to this school year, 70 of those students attended our pre-kindergarten program. So we're definitely growing the program. The next number to notice here is the percentage of students who did not enroll or were not in one of our district pre-K programs and scored at the tier 1, which is that green. 44% of the students that tested, if they did not attend our program, scored in tier 1, which is where we would like for our students to be. And 59% of the students who attended our pre-kindergarten program and tested at beginning of year did score in tier 1. So two things that I think speak here. Number one is that our program is growing, and number two, that it's working. So we moved those students, some of the highest risk group of students. We had 59% of them that were in tier 1 going into kindergarten. So that's, I felt like that was good news, exciting news for us. So then, oops, here, let's see. Looking then, now this is MAP testing. MAP, this is the first year that I have MAP data for our students. That's a new assessment for this particular group. And we'll look at the same numbers here. Whoops, let me go back here, sorry about that. So we had 35% of the students that were in district pre-kindergarten programs that took the MAP test. I don't know why there's a difference between the number that took literacy and the number that took math, but of the 35, there were 35% of the students that took the test, which the numbers of students that took ELAR and math were different anyway. But as you can see, 53% of the students in the district scored at tier 1, and 46% of the students who did attend pre-kindergarten scored at tier 1. I'm not disappointed. I think 46% of our students on tier 1 is still good progress, but I do think that there are some things that we will continue to work on. And we've already had some conversations about that. I'm working with Denise Bilyeu to address how we might support teachers in getting students ready for kindergarten. All right. So again, program growth, some considerations for additional pre-kindergarten programs. So there was a projected number that was shared of 44 additional students, which would equal to 2 full-day pre-kindergarten classrooms. And so we're currently in planning and communication with Mr. Waltz's office and Human Resources. And then of course, that will come to you for consideration in the future. Some of those additional considerations would be budgets, so staffing, resources, continued training, transportation offerings for young children, our staffing for teachers and paraprofessionals, the additional hours that are needed for early childhood specific training that is required under high quality pre-kindergarten, as well as early childhood instructional specialists that are required to fulfill the coaching and mentoring piece for that. And so, of course, we consider transportation and the need for the additional safety for young children. Currently, we're offering a shuttle service to students. That's what we've been doing this year. And then, of course, making sure that we are meeting those high-quality pre-kindergarten requirements and completing that self-assessment. And it just would not be, you know, a day if I didn't have some great pictures of cute children to share with you.
Absolutely.
Can I answer any questions for you?
Questions? I have a couple of comments, but is there anyone else?
Is she happy or sad?
She's
Yes.
so happy.
She's happy.
She's dressed
happy.
like Maribel from Encanto.
That's
She's so
right.
happy.
So I just have I want to echo what Jerry said, and, you know, I just want to let you know, and when I looked at the board book last week, Wednesday, Thursday, whenever I got it, and saw the scores, I just, you know, was so excited, you know, so excited to see, because we are building that foundation for our kids to continue to progress, and so those numbers just looked fantastic. So congratulations to you and to your wonderful staff. I know I used to be an early childhood teacher, so I know how hard those jobs are. They're all hard, but helping those little kids figure out what to do takes a lot of patience and hard work. And so please let your staff know how much we as a board appreciate all they're doing, and that, you know, y'all are building a good future for those kids to, whatever test is there in a few years, they'll do well. So
Thank you so much.
It used to be something that was just kind of, it's nice if a kid was able to go to pre-K, and we're finding more and more, it's just incredibly important, and just, we're so grateful.
I mean, in today's society, I think part of that is by the time they get there, they're coming to pre-K, you're already having to break an addiction to a screen, I think a lot of times. So I think it's a thing that you're dealing with and your teachers are dealing with these days, that, you know, you can deal with. But, you know, we see it, that's a thing, right? At all levels, but especially at that level that, you know, you're coming in at 3 or 4 and you've mastered this or that, and then you got to get away from it and go, how do I act around other children?
I'm really
and adults?
trying, and it's getting hard. It's really hard.
Figure it out.
But really, please let everyone know how much all our teachers and work hard, and since you guys are here and giving the report, I hope that you'll all pat yourselves on the back for that great work, because the scores certainly show that what you're doing is working.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you for your
Good work.
support.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy. All right, we're going to go a little bit past our 6 o'clock so we can see, we have the presentations from Mrs. Hardy with the Saginaw High School band uniforms. I believe the students are here, so we don't want them to have to come back at 7. So we're
Waiting
going to.
patiently.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, ah.
Ooh, ah.
I will, if y'all will step over here. Nobody wants to see me at this moment, I promise. But good evening, Dr. Tolbert and Dr. Hollingsworth Board. Thanks so much for giving us the opportunity to stay a little bit long. We'll be brief, but wanted to share with you the creation, the customized uniforms for us that were prepared by Fred J. Miller, the approved vendor from last month's board meeting. They whipped these out quickly for us, and we are so proud of them. You are seeing the Spirit uniform that they'll wear on Friday nights with Coach DeWitt. I know I saw him roaming around here earlier. And so they'll wear those mainly on Friday nights, gives them that flexibility, and then they'll have a formal uniform that is a little bit more sleek for Saturday contest, that gives them a lot of flexibility in their showmanship for the rest of the year. Tonight with us, we've got senior Gage Stevens and senior Morgan Behringer. Gage is modeling the Spirit uniform, and Morgan is modeling the color guard uniform as well. And their directors, Matt Pearson and Jesse Rajabi, are here with us. And also Dr. Cynthia Weber is here and served with us on the selection panel as we made these decisions together. So we appreciate, again, the ability to be able to outfit our students in these versatile, flexible, and professional uniforms.
Beautiful. Anybody have questions or comments? You guys like them. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Is that a jacket that comes off? I'm just curious. Is it? You could-
It's like a jacket, and there's an undershirt here that
Ah,
makes also the vest under.
The collar is all one piece?
It gives it multiple looks as you layer up.
Mhm.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Helps with our heat advisory situations also. We
Oh,
can take
gotcha.
some layers off or add some, depending on the heat index in the fall as well.
This is way better than just the color handout.
Yes, much better.
I'm saying, next level.
Much better. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, agree. Thank you so much for taking your time and
Oh, thank
coming
y'all
out.
for
We really
staying long.
appreciate it. And staying in those uniforms for the last hour, right? So thank you. We appreciate it so
Thank
much.
y'all.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Oh, we did go late. All right. It is currently 6 PM on February 24th. This board, 2025, sorry. This board will now recess for dinner and then can reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551071, for the purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney. Section 551072, for the purpose of deliberating on the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.074, for the purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, or reassignment of duties. We'll talk about contract renewals for district employees. Section 551.076, for the purpose of deliberations regarding the deployment or specific occasions of implementation of security. And Section 551.0821, to discuss specific personal identifying information about a student. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. The board is reconvening the public meeting on February 24th, 2025 at 7:02 PM. And we'll now consider the subject set forth in the posted agenda. So welcome everyone. We're glad to have you. Happy February, almost March, almost spring break. We have a lovely group of students from Saginaw Elementary today that are going to conduct our opening ceremony. So if they would like to come, we would love to have them.
Yeah.
We are so excited to be here. Saginaw Stars are very excited to lead in our pledges today. I'm going to introduce them. First, we have Haley Richard, and she is in 2nd grade. Her parents are Troy and Tasha Richard. She cheers with Eagle Mountain Youth Association, and she loves to cheer and do anything that's craft related. Next, we have Eli and Grayson Cox. Grayson is in kindergarten, and his parents are Corey and Rebecca Cox. He loves YMC T-ball. His interests are sports, playing outside, camping, exploring nature, fishing, building Legos, robots, Hot Wheels, puppies, superheroes, and Minecraft.
Awesome.
His favorite subjects in school are writing, PE, recess, lunch, and breakfast.
Me too.
Next to him is Eli Cox, and he is in 2nd grade. His parents are Corey and Rebecca Cox. His organizations are Cub Scouts, Pack 435, Wolf. His interests are art projects, drawing, camping, exploring nature, fishing, building Legos, dinosaurs, animals, Minecraft, Super Mario, Batman, and Godzilla.
Wow,
And his
awesome.
favorite subjects at school are science, social studies, and math.
Very good.
Next, we have Brantley Richard. He is in 5th grade. His parents are Troy and Tasha Richard. His organizations are Honor Choir, football and basketball with Eagle Mountain Youth Association. His interests are TCU and all things sports.
Woohoo, go Tees, go Frogs.
And last but not least, we have William Scheid, who is in 4th grade. His parents are Eric and Grace Ann Scheid. His interests are baseball, and as district who is visiting our campus knows, he made the impossible shot at PE.
Oh, wow.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the pledge for the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Great job, Saginaw Elementary. You guys make us so proud. It's my favorite part of the meeting, for sure. For sure. We do have some communications. We have Ms. Carla Hardy, some TEMEA All-State Band and Choir recognitions.
Good evening again, Dr. Tolbert, Dr. Hollingsworth, and the board. While our students and directors are coming into place, I'd like to share with you how excited I am to highlight the incredible achievement of our district's fine arts team. This year, we proudly have 7 students who have earned the prestigious title of TMEA All-State Musician. This marks the most that our district has ever had in a single year. Over 70,000 students from across the state of Texas start this process in August, and only 1,800 are selected to perform in one of the ensembles in San Antonio. These students have demonstrated excellent talent, dedication, and hard work to reach this remarkable milestone. They, along with their directors and private teachers, are a testament to the high standards of excellence within our band and choir programs in EMS ISD. We will start from my left with our Boswell awardees. First, Jonah Hamilton, a junior at Boswell High School. He is the son of Cliff and Carissa Hamilton, who are both teachers in our district as well. Jonah was performed with the 6A Symphonic Band and was named first chair euphonium across the state of Texas. Next to Jonah is Daniel Navarrete. He is a junior and the son of John and Annalena Navarrete. He was the second chair trombone player in the 6A Philharmonic Orchestra.
Yes.
Josh Stover is here with them this evening from Boswell High School. Next is Gabriel Borrero. He is a junior and the son of Milagros Gamardo Medina and Eberth Borrero Diaz. He was a tenor 2 in the All-State Texas Mixed Choir. He was selected also to perform in the mixed choir at the American Choral Directors Association that will be performing in Dallas next month. Wow. And our final Boswell pioneer is Ryan Chamberlain. He is a senior, the son of Jeff and Brandy Chamberlain. He is a tenor 1 who was selected to be in the All-State Tenor Bass Choir. Their director is Mr. Sean Kilpatrick of the Pioneer Choirs. From Chisholm Trail, we have Winston Winkler, who is a junior and the son of Barbara Kading and Todd Winkler. He is a French horn player and performed with the 6A Symphonic Band from a 5A choir. Wow. His director is Mr. Derek Doyle, who is here with us this evening. Chisholm Trail Chorale, we have Riley Carver, who is a senior and the daughter of Jonathan and Kim Carver. She is an alto 1 and was selected for the 2nd year in a row to the All-State Treble Choir.
Nice.
And our final All-Stater this evening knows this very, very well, as he was selected for his 3rd consecutive year into an All-State ensemble. Mr. Evan Danforth is a senior at Saginaw High School. He is the son of Kenneth and Melissa Danforth, and he performed in the 5A Symphonic Band this year. going to back up and recognize the choir directors from Chisholm Trail. Megan Sisk and Shelby Hill are with us here tonight. And from Saginaw High School, Mr. Matt Pearson and Jesse Rajabi. Thank you all for what you do to allow us to continue to compete at the highest level and so that each of our kids can experience success through fine arts. It is just more important now than ever, and we appreciate you so very, very much.
Ms. Hardy, yes, I would like to just chime in here. Thank you for that presentation. I appreciate the numbers, but just to make it clear, this is a process where you're looking at the top 1%, even less than that, the top 1% in their perspective voices or instruments in the state of Texas. This competition is not a one-time competition where you can show up, have a great day, and then, wow, maybe I'll state choir. It's a process. They'll start, if you're underclassmen, they'll start for next year's All-State Choir Contest in the next few weeks. They'll get the music and they'll start, and wow, to see 7 from our district, that's, there's a lot of districts that just hope to get 1 every now and then. So congratulations and thank you for your hard work, students, because I know, you and your parents are the only ones that know the hours that you put into that. Thank you for that hard work, and directors, thank you for supporting those kids.
Absolutely, outstanding. Great job.
Great work.
You make our jobs look easy.
What a great display of public education in the state of Texas.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Next year, can we have demonstrations of your instruments?
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Perfect, love it.
And we will start now to our reports. If you were here for all the special things, you are welcome to stay, but you probably want to go. We did not quite finish our reports from 5 o'clock, so we will go back and we have the finance reports. So the first one is Mr. Rob Welch on the budget update, please.
Good evening, trustees. We have several reports from the world of finance tonight, and I'd like to start off with a budget update. And with that, we can look at where we're at right now in the current year, being the fiscal year 2024-2025. We want to step back to about this time last year, and we think about where we've gone as far as the budget development going into this current year. If you'll recall, we started with a projected deficit at that time of about $20 million. Our teams across the district and working with the board were able to move that to a deficit of about $12.5 million. And some of the things that we did in order to do that, there were central office reassignments. We increased staffing ratios at the elementary to the 24-to-1 and 26-to-1 for 5th grade. We eliminated 59 lunch monitor positions. And we also adjusted athletic trainer and the strength and conditioning teacher FTEs, and also reduced college and career readiness counselors, among other things we did in the district to get to that $12.5 million deficit. Then in the summer, after before we adopted the budget, we looked at the ability to provide a 2% increase for compensation for all employees before adopting the budget. So we went into the budget with the adopted budget that for this year with a $16 million deficit. As we're sitting here at mid-year, we've had additional information come in. We started the year. We have several things that have happened. One is of significance is the hold harmless revenues from the homestead exemption. Those amounts have been updated throughout our formula, and that's provided an amount to increase our revenue, which is very beneficial. The other thing that we've seen is our special populations, while we allow for an increase, we've seen a significant increase beyond that in the way of enrollment for the students in various weighted categories. And so that's provided some additional revenue as well. The other area is overall our ADA. While we budgeted at 350 ADA, average daily attendance students, that's the number that drives our funding. We have, at this point, we're projecting that we will finish the year about 440 ADA, and so there's some additional funding there, and so that will also benefit our revenue outlook. As a reminder, there's been no adjustment to the basic allotment since 2019. There was not an adjustment for the 2024-2025 year. It remains, that adjustment remains zero. And then the other thing is just we know that property values increase, and with that, there will be more collections from year to year. But in the state funding formula, the district doesn't necessarily see an increase in revenue when that occurs. That when we get more tax collections in, our state funding goes down. And so we come back to the same amount per student, and that's been the case since 2019. Just a reminder that ESSER funding is extinguished. We've utilized all those dollars, and that those grant programs have gone away, as well as we've also experienced a decrease in our charge reimbursements of those federal dollars. So with that, the other thing that we have to take into consideration is that, especially when we see those special population and that weighted revenue come in, with that comes a spending requirement. And so while those revenues have come up for the special allocations and that weighted funding, the spending requirement to put towards those programs increases as well. So while we are seeing additional revenue, we also are seeing additional expenditure requirements tied to that revenue. So in all, our outlook for the rest of the year and where we think we'll be for the end of the current year, the 2024-2025 year, is a revenue increase of $9 million. Expenditure increase right now of about $1 million, again, to fund those weighted programs that are generating additional revenue. And in all, that creates a decrease in our deficit from a $16 million number to an $8 million number, even though our budget's going to have to go up a little bit, but we will see an overall decrease in that deficit to $8 million, which is that is a good move, but we still have work to do, because that is we're still utilizing fund balance in this case. If we turn the gears towards looking at next year, and kind of the same situation right now, looking at the early projections, some of the assumptions that we're building our budget off of is that we have a projected enrollment increase of 410 students, as we heard from Zonda earlier in the meeting. And when we look at that, we project what the average daily attendance effect from those additional students enrolled would be. In that, right now, we're running at 250 ADA, which is about a $2.5 million increase to the budget. Again, right now, there hasn't been anything approved in the legislature until we see where the proposed bills go and how that the struggles between the Senate and the House and what actually becomes a school finance bill and what that impact may be. Right now, we're just holding that as a zero impact until we know more, and then obviously our base model we can adjust as they put legislation in place. And so again, our basic allotment in this scenario remains at the 6160. And again, property values, while we do expect cap values to still impact to increase our property values, even though there's no reappraisal, we may see an increase in the property values, but again, they will not affect our M&O budget, because when the property values go up, state funding will go down as far as collections and the overall revenue. On the expenditure side, we know that we have several things coming. We can expect staffing growth for Eagle Mountain High School as we add an additional grade level there. We added in $1 million estimate for that at this point. We know that because of the weighted funding and the number of students coming in for special programs, we estimate that there'll be a need to provide an additional $1 million in the budget for those services. And then again, the weighted funding, bringing that $1 million from the from the current year, moving that forward into next year's projection as well. The other thing is that we anticipate, in order to meet the affordability requirements for the employer medical insurance contribution, that'll be about a $1.7 million increase. And we're anticipating property and casualty insurance increases. We're putting a number in there for about $500K. We've seen that number increase by over $1 million before. And so we're holding a placeholder there. Transportation increases of $500,000. And then we're still reapplying the savings that we've achieved in the prior two budgets, being last year's budget and this year's budget. Both of those years we trimmed $7 million out of the starting point for those budgets. And so we've actually have a total of $14 million that we have trimmed from where we were 2 years ago.
Robbie, you recapped some of those trimmings earlier in this presentation. What about the one from 2 years ago? Was it anything that would add to that list where we've had to cut expenses?
Thinking back,
that first $7 million.
The first $7 million, we decreased some of the things that we were doing in the way of maintenance and operations. We trimmed in some of our operations there, and we also looked at our staffing, and we're a little more conservative in our staffing plan going into and waiting to see a little growth until we to see where growth popped up, and that helped us with our staffing. It put us later into the hiring process, but
it was class size also, which you mentioned earlier. They kind of inched up starting 2 years ago and have continued.
Yes, as a byproduct of trying to be conservative and seeing where students arrive. And so those are some of the major pieces, and then just looked at any low-hanging fruit that we could find in the budget 2 years ago that would again trying to keep as much away from the classroom as we could in that first phase. So our preliminary projection for next year is the net effect of projected revenues and the projected expenditures as we know them at this point would be a deficit of $10 million. And that's basically moving what we're doing right now forward with taking those expenditure projections into account going into next year. And that would move our projected fund balance from 70 million at the end of this year, which is 103 days, to 60 million or 88 days. With that realization, and knowing that we may have another layer of trimming for our budget, we've engaged a group, our financial integrity and transparency team. It's a team representative of stakeholders throughout the entire process. Here, as you can see, we've included teachers of general education and specialty programs, athletic coaches, fine arts directors, campus support staff, campus and district administrators, and district operational personnel, as well as bringing in parents and community members into that process as well. Our first meeting was Thursday night. It was a very informative meeting where they had the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the school finance process and the system, as well as review the budget and see various pieces where they were, and then provide some input and generate ideas and help us generate ideas as well as give us some feedback in that process. Their current task at this point, after their first meeting, is now to engage others and come back and with additional ideas and additional input as we will meet again on March the 5th. And that with that, they will bring back more ideas and give us another look as we take the next steps. The board has scheduled a budget workshop for March the 11th. That information coming from our FIT committee will be utilized along with other information to get some ideas on what some direction on where we go from here with our budget. Hopefully we'll have a little more information from our legislature at that time, but I can tell you it's going to be one of those things that there's a lot of unknowns as what will happen. And so just a couple of things as we talk about the basic allotment and what comes from the legislature. The basic allotment is an important piece to us. Obviously, that's what drives everything in our funding. And regardless of property values and all of our other inputs, it comes down to ADA and what happens with that basic allotment. And so at this point, if we factor in the 19% plus of inflation that's happened since 2019, it would take an increase to the basic allotment of $1,340 to bring us back to the funding levels we had in 2019. Right now, what I've seen from the House Bill 2 is an increase of $220. So we are a long cry from those funding levels in 2019 with what's being proposed right now at the legislature. There's several things that go along with that. Under current law, the basic allotment, any increase to that would potentially or is required right now to provide a 30% of the funds that increase from the basic allotment have to go towards compensation, and then 75% of that has to go to teachers. The other 25% goes to other employees. So when we get an increase, it's some of those numbers are spoken for, and so it's not necessarily a flat increase. In fact, right now that $220 ADA increase would generate about $8 million in revenue to the district, but only about $3 million of that would be unfettered for the district to do that doesn't have anything tied to it in the way of requirements. And so it's limiting, but at the same time, it would be an increase that would help offset costs that we would probably deem as priorities as it is, but it only generates about a $3 million drop in our deficit.
Does the 6,019 currently require 30% to go to compensation? Or just be the increase?
It's just the increase.
So if we get 220, multiply it times the 30% go to compensation, that's like $66, and so teachers get 75% of it, so that's like $16. I mean, there has been I've seen some bills where they're talking about giving teacher raises, large raises, and then the compensation, the basic allotment, they would take that
requirement off,
which, I think the teacher would be much happier if they did that set amount of dollar raise.
Yeah, I think the Senate has a teacher retainage allotment proposed bill out there that would be a more significant increase than what we would see as a requirement through the basic allotment increase that the House has. And so I think that would be a substantially better.
Have you heard of any movement on that in the House at all, or is it just the Senate?
House and Senate have two really different models right now, and I think that there would be, obviously, they would have to work out the differences. I feel like the Senate would be more engaged, more likely to entertain a basic allotment increase, even though they didn't really have one in place yet. But I think that they would be willing, as long as they get the teacher retainage allotment, which I think would be very important. And it all gears around whether or not vouchers are approved as part of any of the actions.
So, of the, I don't want to, he's the CPA.
Go ahead.
I'm certainly not going to contradict his numbers, so I'm asking this as a question, if I understood it right. With this, if this bill passes, then it would, the basic allotment would go, I'm sorry. It would increase from 6,160 and an additional $200 and something per student.
That is correct.
And 75% or 30% of that is going to, of the per student goes towards teacher salaries. So it would be more than $16. But
Per
my
student.
question is,
It'd be per student, 16 per student.
right, so my question is, has there been any head scratch into what that would allow us to give our teachers a 2% raise, a 3% raise, a 4% raise?
So it would generate, or it would require about $3 million of that increase. Like I said, the $8 million, which is not only the 6160 amount that would be for just kind of regular ed, but it also would be increasing our weighted allocations as well.
Mm.
And so that's where we get a total of about $8 million in increase. So 30% of that.
So 30% is, if you're saying 3 million, what would that allow us to do for our teachers?
That'd be about 1.5%.
Yeah, less than 2%.
Is what it would work out to. And so.
We've been doing better than that on our own.
Yeah, won't quite get to 2%, but it will, it'll get somewhere between the 1 and the 2 mark.
Very frustrating.
So I'll just make one will not be a very quick comment, but I was in Austin on Thursday, and that was the day, just was perfect timing, that's when the House bills all dropped.
Yes.
And there were like 3 bills, 150 pages each. I mean, they were busy dealing with them. And what I would encourage the people that are listening and the people here to call your representatives, call your senators, and tell them what you think needs to happen. That what you think that support for public education is absolutely critical, and here's the things, and here's why, and give them a personal story if you have one. I would really encourage you to do that, because you do have that kind of power, and they do listen. I mean, they were taking copious notes, the staffers were, about the different things. So, and like I said, it just so happened, we were lucky, I was lucky because the bills had just dropped, so they were scrambling around trying to read them. So I would really encourage you to send more than one phone call, make more than one phone call, send more than one email. So.
There is no shortage of cash in Austin. And that's the whole thing. We go through and we talk, we have all these conversations about budget cuts. We're talking about a third round of budget cuts in our school district, and this is nothing but a manufactured crisis, just for politics, and and children suffer in the process.
That's all.
We have a record surplus in Austin.
Yes.
Record surplus, absolutely.
So please, you do have power.
Indeed. This is the time. This is when they are making their decisions, and the plan is for them to move very quickly.
Yes, they said 30 to 45 days. They would have
Yes.
their.
Yes.
I just want to say something real quick also about the FIT team that Rob mentioned. They did a tremendous job. We had about 85 members of that team, plus another 15 to 18 of our central office folks who were there to answer questions. Rob and Doug and Jane were tremendous. I mean, it was fantastic. And our folks were, they asked really tough questions. And a lot of folks walked out saying, I didn't know that about school funding. So I think we educated some folks in the process, but really, really proud of the work that was done.
They did a lot of work and they generated a lot of ideas, and they were very forthcoming and is very appreciative.
Thank you for all your hard work. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Welch.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And our last report is the 24-25 budget amendment. Mr. Kittinger?
Good evening, President Tolbert, Dr. Hollingsworth, members of the board. I'm here to present for your review the February 2025 budget amendment. Again, it seems like when we have that budget update right before I go, kind of everything is kind of talked about. Some of the biggest influences that we had is the homestead exemptions numbers finally coming through that decreased our taxable properties, which you can see in the negative impact for expected tax collections this year, but greatly increased the amount of state funding that we're going to be getting from them this year. Again, we talked about like the ADA increases and the special population changes for this year. And that was another large increase for us, about $4 million worth, offset by that roughly $725,000 of expenses. I guess all of that to say that, again, we're decreasing this year's budgeted deficit by roughly $7 million. Do you have any questions?
Questions, comments? Thank you so much, Mr. Kittinger. We appreciate it. Okay, that completes all our reports of the superintendent. We'll go right into action items. And our first one is Mr. Kurt Murdoch to consider approving computer replacements for teacher laptop leases.
Good evening. I'm bringing the approval for leasing as a method of procurement for our computer replacement plan for teacher laptops. We've been leasing technology equipment since 2014, and we're just starting to plan for 2025 teacher laptops, and we're looking at about 700 of them this year. As part of the documentation we have to provide when we do move toward leasing, we have to provide a approval by the board as method of procurement, and then a opinion letter from the attorney saying that you approved it as a method of procurement to give to the leasing agency. So the recommendation is to approve the computer replacement for teacher laptop lease for 2025, 2026 as a method of procurement.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion by Steve, second by Tim. Any questions or comments, discussion?
Is this coming out of the bond funds?
No, this was the leasing.
This is all M&O? Okay.
And we've been doing it. It's part of the cycle.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next one is to consider my favorite person, Dr. Waters, regarding class size waivers. He knows I'm teasing him.
Thank you for your introduction. Dr. Tolbert, Dr. Hollingsworth, and board members, I come to you tonight to request approval of class size waivers for 8 classrooms in the district that have exceeded the 22-to-1 ratio since our last meeting.
Make a motion to approve the submission of the pre-kindergarten through 4th grade class size waivers as presented.
Motion by Tim, second by Paige. Any discussion or questions? We do appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kittinger, you're back up for the budget amendment, act on the 24-25 budget amendment that you just presented.
I move we approve the 2024-2025 budget amendment for February 2025 as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Paige, second by Steve. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Great. And Mr. Hunter Lee, consider approving a temporary easement.
President Tolbert, members of the board, Dr. Hollingsworth. The city of Fort Worth has a necessity to acquire a temporary construction easement located at CPN 104-153 Bailey Boswell West, parcel number 9, TCE 5805 West Bailey Boswell Road, Boswell High School addition, Block 1, Lot 1, for the purpose of the public infrastructure improvements. The primary use of the temporary construction easement will be for grading and transitions of the district's property to the new roadway. After district negotiations, the city of Fort Worth is offering $4,700 for 4,451 square feet located at parcel TCE4 for a temporary construction easement, along with $22,169 for the improvements plus cost to cure to get the property back to its existing condition. The recommendation is to approve the city of Fort Worth temporary construction easement for the total amount of $26,869.
So moved.
Motion by Ron, second by Paige. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, so that we can get all of our east and west roads under construction at the same time.
So true.
How is this gonna affect campus traffic, or I heard your legal description there, but tell me is that where the students go in and out, or our teachers, or band practices, or?
So our security, the guard shack, so this easement is essentially, it runs across the front of that guard shack. So the city will be leasing that piece of property for 2 years total, but it's essentially for grading purposes. It's not necessarily because they need to house a construction trailer. As far as the logistics, they're always going to have to allow us in and out. We haven't gotten into any sort of phasing plans discussing how they're going to work with school traffic. We do know that just like Marine Cromwell, they're going to have to allow us access always. So
That's working real well. I'm kidding. So they're going to use that to grade. We're giving them the easement because they're going to tear up our property.
That's correct.
And we're giving them permission to tear it up and then put it back.
The $22,000 is for us to put it back to its existing condition.
Okay.
Because it is our property.
So 2 years from now, will that be enough? Is there any contingency for, I've heard construction costs have gone up the last couple of years.
So their initial offer was to the tune of $17,000. We went back and we got our own quotes and renegotiated that deal and added about $6,000 to their initial offer.
Good job.
And that's where that $22,000.
Is it going to take down the guard shack or?
No.
So it'll just be tearing up the.
Correct. We worked with our attorneys. We added in some descriptors about, hey, any impact to the guard shack, they will be required to get it back to its existing or better conditions. And so that's another negotiating piece that we added in there as well. But there should be no effect to the guard shack.
Where was that? That's in the document? I didn't
Student
see
parking lot.
Huh?
He's saying, where is it in the document?
Guard shack, I didn't.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So if you'll flip a few pages, 112 here.
Okay, so not in the document that we saw, but in the second, it's in a different document?
Yes.
Okay. It almost says the contrary to that at the bottom of that first document. That's what I was going to ask about. I was concerned about.
Well, I hate to hold up progress. That's all the questions I have.
Okay. Thank you for negotiating a better price, because I think that's probably a good idea. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, so again, I have a motion by Ron, second by Paige. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Lee, you're up again for the contract for flooring replacements.
The district posted an RFQ for the replacement of flooring at Willow Creek, Northbrook, Parkview, John L. Price Maintenance and Transportation, and portions of Saginaw High School. As these campuses have reached their end-of-life schedules for the carpet, the district acquired 3 approved quotes from Gomez Flooring, Spectra Contract Flooring, and One Source Commercial Flooring. One Source Commercial Flooring submitted the most competitive pricing for the specified product. Funding from this project will come from the 2023 bond, and the recommendation is to award One Source Commercial Flooring for the flooring replacements at multiple campuses for a cost not to exceed $585,494.24.
So move.
Is that you, Blake?
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
Motion by Blake, second by Ron. Any discussion or questions?
Have we used them before, One Source?
They did the high school, and they are doing Wayside Middle School. So we've never worked with them on a summer project, but they've been in the commercial market pretty heavily.
Did the high school as in Eagle Mountain?
Yes, sir.
Score.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Okay, that concludes our action items. So next, is there any questions about the routine monthly reports?
I don't have any questions. I would just like the secondary discipline reports to kind of give us a little trends or something other than just raw numbers.
Yes, I think
Or
that's.
some kind of reference to that.
Yes, sir, and there's also a question related to, can we provide kind of a year-over-year view for some of our attendance reporting as well? We'll absolutely work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Be great. Okay, Dr. Hollingsworth, you want to review your board planning calendar?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President and trustees, just want to point out a couple of upcoming things regarding our board planning calendar. February 26th, on Wednesday night, we'll have the Elected Officials Appreciation Dinner. Yeah, I said that right. That's Wednesday night. The Elected Officials Appreciation Dinner that's hosted by Community Link. I, along with a couple of, I'm in the wrong spot. My apologies.
Sorry.
I appreciate you.
Like, wait, that doesn't sound like the board planning calendar.
There we go.
Sorry, my apologies.
No, that's my apologies. Sorry about that. Thank you. I'm sure I'm red now. How my brain works. My apologies. Okay. Moving forward, we will have, I just point out a couple of things. We will continue to do our district-wide intruder detection audit report findings if needed. We'll bring you our human resources report as well as our operations report. We'll have communication regarding the Texas Association of School Business Officials Award of Merit for purchasing operations. Some of our action items that we'll bring forward: election of members to the Board of Directors for ESC Region 11, consideration of our campus staffing report. That's one of the reasons that we've been working really hard to bring y'all together for a board budget workshop, and we're trying to finish the work of our FIT team so that we're ready to finalize some of those staffing, preliminary staffing plans for next year. So that'll be a big part of what we're doing. You'll set a special meeting to canvass our school trustee election. And then we have a number of routine reports. And as you look at your consent agenda, we'll approve our foreign exchange student waivers. We'll look at modified schedule for our state assessment waiver. And those are the main things in our board planning calendar.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, consent agenda. Was there any questions or any thing that anybody wanted to talk about, or do I have a motion to approve?
I mean, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Paige. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries again 7-0. So I have a couple of announcements. Some will probably be redundant to Dr. Hollingsworth, but yes, we do have the elected officials dinner on Wednesday evening. We have STEM night on Thursday night, so we have lots of activities going on this week. The budget workshop on March 11th at 5, so make sure you have your calendar for that. And then we had all those celebrations earlier, but I want to make sure that we also celebrate some things. I try to keep up with all of these on Facebook, but I'm not always great at it, so I asked Mr. Barker to please help me. So I want to, we had a lot of state recent participants for EMS ISD, and the first Rough Rider swimmer to medal at state was Sophie Ann Cortez, a junior making her third appearance at the 5A state swimming meet in Austin. She placed third, receiving the bronze medal in the 100 butterfly. and she also placed 5th in the 50 freestyle. So I want to recognize her as really awesome, and for someone that can barely tread water, I'm quite impressed with that. Also, Tevin Neville, I hope I said that right, a junior at Eagle Mountain High School, qualified for the 4A state swimming meet in San Antonio. He placed 13th in the 200-meter IM and placed 15th in the 100-meter breaststroke. So congratulations to him as well. Ethan Arat, a junior at Chisholm Trail High School, wrestled in the state wrestling tournament in Houston Sci-Fair. And last but certainly not least, the Lady Boswell Pioneer basketball team is going to the state semifinals tomorrow. Boswell versus Lancaster tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at Colony High School. And then we are hopeful they will advance to the 6A state finals on Saturday, 5 p.m. at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. So we hope they make it. If they just keep playing like you've been playing, and you will. We're very proud of all of these people, and it makes us, again, hashtag EMS proud for all those things. I also want to make everyone aware that the board, just like teachers and other professionals, have continuing education hours they must complete every year, and I'm happy to report that everyone has completed most of their hours. There's still a few that just have a couple of little things like cybersecurity, but they have till the end of the year to do that. Pardon me?
They have till the end of the
So everybody's current. We have everything, and let me see, who is the winner this year? I think it is, who has the most? I'm just looking to see who has the most.
That'd be you.
No, it's not me. Paige, I'm right behind her. Paige Ring has 34 hours, and I have 33. And so everybody has a good job. So, just so you know, your body is doing what they need to be doing. I don't think you'd have any doubt of that, but just in case, that's something that we have to report every year. So that's all I have. And now for your announcements.
Yes, thank you. And now it's time for my announcements. We have our STEM showcase coming up on Thursday night from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at HCTC. Our elementary open houses are coming up on March 6th across the district. And as you already mentioned, we have our special board meeting for our board budget workshop. One of the things I want the board to know, I have continued to kind of make my rounds as part of what I would call my entry plan coming into the district. I have now gone to 21 out of our 30 campuses to give my introductory presentation and seek feedback from them. That's gone really, really well. I've really had a great experience getting to do that, and I'll continue to hit the remaining 9 campuses. We've also gone to maintenance, and we've visited with our central office folks, and that's been a really neat process. And I want to recognize some outstanding results for our communications team. The Texas School PR Association is something on which Megan Overman has served on the board over the last 7 years. And our folks went down there and they really just did an incredible job. So they represented us very well. On Tuesday, all 4 members of the team presented a session entitled Building Buzz Before the First Bell Rings, Engaging Your Community Before Opening a New School, which highlighted the work of Dr. Gatlin and our team in getting ready to open Eagle Mountain High School. Specifically, we want to give a shout out to Matthew and Brittany, who led the sessions. And it was Brittany Sanchez's first TSPRA conference. They call it TSPRA. And she just did an extraordinary job. So really good stuff. But the list goes on. There were other presentations that were offered by our team, and Megan was specifically given what's called the TSPRA President's Award for her service to TSPRA for many, many years. It's a big deal to get that award, and so I want to recognize Megan. I can't see her right there. I see her right there. Good job. Outstanding. And the highest awards they offer are called Crystal and Platinum Awards, the Star Awards. We earned the Crystal Award of Merit for a special event, which was our ceremony of remembrance that was conducted back, I believe, in the fall. Isn't that right? We earned the Aspire 2027 Strategic Plan Visioning Document. We earned Best of Category and Gold Star Award, and then several Gold Star Awards for Comprehensive Communication Plan, Fostering a Culture of Excellence. For writing, the EMS ISD Police Make Graduating Seniors Dream Come True. For specialty writing, Convocation 2023, EMS ISD's Got Talent. Posters, Fine Arts Showcase at Bass Hall. Video event, EMS ISD Celebrates Texas Public School Week. Video marketing, Making Good Choices with EMS ISD. And finally, a Bronze Star Award for our digital magazine, EMS Summer Proud 2023, which is a tribute to the whole team. So that's a lot of stuff, but a lot of good things, so I really want to recognize them. So.
I would be remiss if I didn't thank all these wonderful thank you cards that I received from students this evening. So I'm sure you all got some as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you for those there. We appreciate you, and it means a lot to get them.
I think you forgot, I'm sure you just didn't go down the list far enough, but y'all were first and second. I think I was third at 29. I thought you would.
Well, Tim.
What? Go ahead, Steve.
Madam President, seeing this no further business for this board, I move we adjourn.
Okay, motion by Stiles, second by Page. Any discussion about that? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion adjourned. 7:56. Thank you, Aaron. That was very